Another Wednesday's come and gone, and I've got some comics. Let's talk about them. Hey, welcome to 9 Panel Grid. This week, we've seen cosmic horror deities, mutant detention centers, and dystopian sushi vendors. But we're going to kick things off this week with Absolute Superman #2, written by Jason Aaron with artwork by Rafa Sandoval. So, I gotta jump right out of the gates and say that this did strikingly less for me than issue 1 did, where I really liked spending time on Krypton and spending time with, Cal's parents, as they, were much different than what they were previously in the DC universe proper, and seeing how different events were playing out. And I really liked that. In fact, I liked seeing that much more than even being in present day. But man, this issue I kind of struggled through. I feel like the big onus of the Absolute Universe is that these characters, regardless of their upbringing and regardless of the circumstances and regardless of just about everything, are still their own unique selves. They are heroic in spite of these things that happen, not because of the things that have happened. And if that's the mission statement and that's what they're going to be going by, I have to say I had a huge problem with the fact that Cal is defined as being heroic by his actions, and Batman is defined by these actions as well. And then we get to the character of Lois Lane, and she is defined by writing words on paper. It's not even necessarily finding the truth of a circumstance or investigation. It was truly her writing words on paper, and that struck me as really out of character and lacking focus on what the mission statement for the Absolute Universe is. Not a lot happens within this issue besides the fact that Cal and Lois get to spend a lot of time together. We see kind of more of the back and forth between the suit and Cal as they speak back and forth and some of the powers that he can manifest because of that. But all in all, this was not a lot of things going on in this issue here. So overall, Absolute Superman kind of like hit high peaks and then came right back down into a valley. Next up, let's talk Action Comics 1078, written by Mark Waid with artwork by Clayton Henry. I gotta say, this is a rough week for Superman here because I'm starting to feel the burnout now on Action Comics with their weekly interval of every single issue. I still like the things that I like. The storyline still feels classic, as we now have Clark having escaped the Phantom Zone, and he's dealing now with the ramifications of what was allowing the Phantom Zone to actually manifest real physical objects. And, it's just that with each and every issue, nothing has really felt like the stakes were actually getting raised to a high level, and nothing has felt interconnected within the universe since this takes place prior to, I believe, even Absolute Power in the DC universe. So overall, it's like I'm enjoying what I'm getting, but it's like a lot, and it's a lot at the same time. So it's starting to become a chore to read this as opposed to a fun adventure, which it had been previously. All right, next up we have All New Venom #1, written by Al Ewing with artwork by Carlos Gomez. So I hadn't been following the previous Venom runs here with Al Ewing, and prior to that, even Ram V had a part of the story that he was telling here, as I dipped my toes in at the very beginning of those, and they really didn't do anything for me, but hey, it's a new #1, it's all new, it's all different, let's give it a shot. And I gotta say, it was a rough one. The whole angle of this book is the mystery behind who is this new Venom, who has the Venom symbiotes, and why are they doing the things that they're doing. And it's all set within a courthouse, as we have our main players being Luke Cage, Robbie Robertson, Rick Jones, the returned Rick Jones of Hulk fame, and Madame Mask. And the issue is kind of like cheeky and fun, playing around with the fact that all of these people happen to disappear at the same time that Venom shows up. But the book is like too into its own joke that it becomes not funny to begin with, which then kind of just, undercuts the entire meaning of the book to begin with. So again, it was kind of a struggle. I think that it has room to grow and maybe become something more than what this introductory issue is. But if the whole premise of the book is just to try to find out who this Venom character is, didn't really work all that effectively. The artwork was sound. I did find that I liked the work that Carlos was doing. It's very much in-house Marvel style kind of stuff. So if you like that, this is going to work for you. If you're kind of bored with it, this is not going to be the book that's going to draw you in. But I think it's, it definitely fits the bill. It's good art. It's not, spectacular art necessarily though. So all in all, Venom, kind of middle of the road. Okay, let's talk Batman number 155, written by Chip Zdarsky with artwork by Jorge Fornes. So this kind of marks the beginning of the end of the Zdarsky run, and through the whole gamut of his storylines that he's been kind of doling out here, it's been a lot of ups and downs. But what I can say about this issue in particular is that this is the first time I feel like it's been a wholly unique Zdarsky type story. This feels very reminiscent to New Bern, one of his creator-owned books that he was doing at Image. It's very focused on Jim Gordon, what had happened with the relationship that he has kind of fostered with the mayor's, wife, and kind of how everything has led to him being the prime suspect of the mayor's murder. Jorge Fornes on art is absolutely spectacular. Again, it fits the bill with kind of like that indie approach that this last storyline is taking here. It feels like this is the first time maybe Zdarsky's kind of been, unchained and been able to tell a story that he wants to tell that's very deep and personal to the character of Jim Gordon. And while he's doing that, it does feel a little bit, I don't want to say out of character, but it feels like ground we've tread previously, specifically in year one, as he had to make the hard choice as to whether or not he was going to lean into some of the attractions that he had for people at the Gotham City PD, or if he was going to stay loyal to his wife, who at the time was pregnant with Barbara Gordon. So again, it's not a wholly new idea, but it's exploring those same kind of, character traits, character motivation. So I appreciate that, and seeing the art style take on a lot of that Mazzucchelli type characteristics. It was appreciated. I liked it. So overall, this actually kind of did it for me. I want to see Zdarsky be able to explore this and really kind of put a pin on his time with the Bat family. Next up, we have Conan, Battle of the Blackstone, number 4, written by Jim Zub with artwork by Jonas Scharf. So this is the ending, this is the culmination of the team-up, if you will, of all of the Robert E. Howard properties, and I had a lot of fun with this series. This was really quick, really exciting, really action-packed, and I think the star of this has really been Jonas Scharf and the colorist on the book, as the art style and the things that they were rendering, the battle scenes, all of the the bloody conquest that was taking place within these pages was done absolutely perfectly between this team. The story itself was a really quick ride. I feel like this is something that you could have really stretched out to be a 12-issue series and really take time to see the characters develop with the team up notion and how they were going to really truly interact, because we didn't get a lot of time with that. What I did really enjoy about the writing in this is that it really opened up the doors. I mean, it kicked the doors wide open for Conan to explore the cosmic horror aspects of his universe. And with that comes a lot of fun and exciting things that they're going to be able to do in Conan the Barbarian proper moving forward. So overall, I feel like this was a successful mini-series. I think it was a successful issue putting the bow on what we've gotten here. And I think this is going to open up a lot of new things for not just Conan, but the other characters that we were kind of reintroduced to within the pages of the series. All right, let's talk Juvenile number 1, written and drawn by Jesus Oriana. So this story is all about a somewhat near future time frame where in this world there has been a virus that's been let out that basically starts to kill all of the people on the earth that come to a certain age point. So really the life expectancy of people surviving is only going up to maybe 21 if you're lucky, but soon you start to show symptoms of the sickness. After that, you start to hear voices in your head. After that, your time is coming down the pipeline very quickly. So we're in this hospital ward, basically, where there's a bunch of juveniles that are there as they take this medication, which is absolutely needed daily. If they skip even one session of this, the virus can overtake them, and that's going to be that for them in a moment's notice. So we get to spend some time with these characters, and it's very much the same kind of interactions that you would expect with teenagers. There is some sharp jabs. There is some people that there's a hierarchy, basically. There's the mean girls. There's the jocks. There's everything that you would expect from a high school setting, albeit this is, a little bit different than that considering the stakes that are at hand. So we have a new character that comes in. He's clearly had some issues in the past. We see that there has been interactions that he's had with the person that oversees this hospital that happens to be ex-military, which opens up a lot of different ideas of what could be coming down the pipeline. And lo and behold, things start to go astray. I really like Jesus's art style on this. It's very reminiscent of like a Brandon Graham, something like that, where the lines are very clean. The color palette is very subtle and very flat, but meaningfully so. So I really appreciated his art style on that. And I think the storyline is leaving things open enough to where there's a lot to explore here, considering there's different angles that you can take. There's the interconnectivity between the characters, which is almost like a coming-of-age drama. There's a conspiracy thriller notion of it. And on top of that, there's another thing that happens in the story that I don't quite want to give away because it's a bit of a spoiler. So a lot to unpack with this issue. It's going to be a mini-series. I've already billed it as so, but I think this is going to be something worthwhile for checking out. And next up, we have Two-Face #1, written by Christian Ward with artwork by Fabio Veras. This issue was almost like its namesake. I went into this issue and I was reading it, and by the halfway point, I was just like, I don't know if this is doing it for me. Something feels, rushed and disjointed. Something's not clicking with me. And as the issue progressed, more and more things are revealed about what's happening in the issue that totally make me recontextualize how I was viewing the first half of this issue. And it was almost as if the duality of the book itself was mimicking the duality of Two-Face himself and my own enjoyment of the book, as I went from really feeling displeased with it to almost turning it all the way over to a pick of the week contender. This was a very bizarre issue, and it makes me wonder if this was intentional or if this was clunky. And either way, by the end of it, I'm kind of pleased with how things turned out. We get to see the inner workings of basically the underworld's version of law and order, as Two-Face is kind of like the district attorney to the people, to the criminals themselves, as they're not without their means for seeking out vengeance, but they do so within the, their own rules, the street rules, if you will. And I like how we get to see Two-Face, Harvey Dent, kind of be still the district attorney type character, the person who is working the courthouse rather than just being a maniacal criminal. That was a really fun twist on it. The art style on here, very gritty, very textured. I love what they were doing with their approach on the art style because I think it was very fitting for everything that was happening within this issue. And again, the same thing with the color work as well. Very appropriate, very bright when needed, very stark when it needed to be as well. So overall, if you read Two-Face, do me a favor, leave your comments down below because I'm curious if you had the same experience that I did. All right, let's talk The Ultimates #7, written by Dennis Camp with artwork by Juan Frigeri. So I feel like Juan Frigeri is coming into his own on this book, as I was a little bit critical at the very beginning of it because I was, comparing him to people like Stefano Caselli that was on Ultimate Black Panther. But with each issue that's come, I feel like he's kind of come into his own, and the art style and the artistic choices have grown each and every issue. By this point, I'm actually really enjoying what he's bringing to the book. Another thing I'm enjoying about this book is obviously Dennis Camp's writing on it. This is very much an in-betweener issue, a breather issue, if you will, because what we saw previously was that the Ultimates really got beat down. They thought that they were prepared to take on, the Maker's cabal, if you will. They were not, and they suffered consequences quite drastically. This is really spending time with each character, kind of picking up the pieces, figuring out what this means for them, where they're going to go from here, and whether or not they even know if they're the right people for this job that they're attempting to take on, because most of these people are very brand new to the idea of superheroics within this world and to themselves. So it was kind of a nice thing to be able to spend time with the characters, get in their head, really understand what their motivations are going to be. This is the kind of issue that you look back on and appreciate more when there's bigger things that happen in a big action-packed type issue. You need these issues to appreciate those even more. So overall, Ultimates number 7, I feel like they're balancing each one of those issues out masterfully. All right, let's talk X-Men number 8, written by Jed MacKay with artwork by Ryan Stegman. So I had originally dropped X-Men proper here as it really wasn't doing it for me early on within the pages of this, and I was feeling a little bit of burnout from the Krakoa era's ending as well. But I had to dip back in because now we're having the crossover event between Uncanny X-Men and X-Men. So to get the full story, I needed to kind of see what was going on here. And I was pleasantly surprised. I feel like Ryan Stegman is still the reason to read this book, as his artwork is really kinetic, really action-packed, really dynamic. You know, the things that you would expect from a Ryan Stegman, and he puts that on display within the pages of this book. We spend a lot of time with the people who are now in the detention center, which used to be the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters in Westchester, as now Beast has been taken prisoner from the X-Men team from Alaska. Jubilee and Calico have been taken prisoner from the X-Men team in Louisiana that's been led by Rogue. And each team now has different ideas for what it is they're going to do and what they're trying to accomplish by heading to Westchester, and everyone's going to come to blows. The one thing I will say is that the cover is extraordinarily deceiving, because if you think you're going to be getting what is on the cover, you're mistaken, because that does not happen within the pages of this book. Maybe it will coming down the pipeline, but I've kind of come to learn that what you see on the cover is not always what you get. Overall, though, it was a decent issue. I kind of liked the ride that I was on here, and I'm not sure if it's the interconnectivity between the books or this issue as a standalone. Either way, I think it was a worthwhile read. And with our runner-up pick of the week, let's talk Prairie Gods number 3, written and drawn by Shane Connery Volk. This issue all revolves around a man who has reached his 120s and is celebrating his birthday, and he's recounting how he has lived this long and how he survived when he shouldn't have even made it past his 20s, being that he was in World War II, and he was a person that was on the front lines and quite honestly was injured in a grave situation, but was saved by some otherworldly things. So Prairie God's previous 2 issues have really had leaned on supernatural aspects. And what I liked about this one is that I was expecting something like that to happen, and they leaned way into the sci-fi aspect of things. And that was really cool. It was unexpected. It was kind of a nice change of pace, and it definitely threw me for a loop because I wasn't, expecting that to happen. Shane's artwork is definitely on full display here. I love the artistic choices. It's a very Sienkiewicz type art style, or the artist of Bear Pirate Viking Queen comes to mind as well. It's that kind of storytelling mechanism. It's that kind of composition that's being put forth here, and I think it works fantastically, especially in a one-and-done type of thing. Each one of these issues is a one-shot, self-contained story, so if you're looking for something like that, this is definitely going to be the book for you. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Long Cold Winter number 1, written by Francesco Perillo with artwork by Stefano Cardicelli. This one totally took me by surprise, as the artwork was very striking, and it was something that was not on my pull list. It was something that I had to grab right off of the racks here, but the cover was so striking that I just needed to see what was going on, and I'm really glad that I did. So this is a Mad Cave book, and it is kind of all about this dystopian future where corporations have, for all intents and purposes, kind of destroyed the planets. Air quality is at an all-time low, and the only way that you can survive is through the air quality controllers that are also put forth by the same corporation that had brought things to the places where they are. The storyline here is very reminiscent of the movie Logan, or like a kind of a lone wolf and cub type of storyline, as we have a robot character who is minding his own business but has clearly stirred up trouble here. So He's kind of going about his own business, doling out his own brand of justice here, but is very much a Ronin type character. He has no meaning. He just kind of goes about his life the way that he feels he should. But when a child robot comes forth and kind of brings the promise of this new land, this place where they can live and prosper and be safe outside of the corporation's thumb, when that notion comes into play, they kind of make an uneasy alliance where the child will lead the way, but this other person needs to make sure that he is protected through this journey. Again, the art style is so fantastic on this. I love what Stefano was really putting forth on the pages here. And the colors are just so bright and vivid, and they will pop off the page. It's a sight to see. It's really breathtaking. It was probably the best art that I've seen in any book this week in particular. And again, the marriage of all of these things, that classic type story with this new, really kind of indie feeling art style and color palette, man, it was pitch perfect. It was just what I needed in the right week at the right time, and it was definitely worthwhile for the top comic of the week. So that's what I've got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read, and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and be part of the panel. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching.